Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. At the offset, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Friday Forum Kuwait, especially our President Mansoor Sahib, for giving us this opportunity and believing in us. It's a great honor, and I should say, maybe after the school history studies, this is the first time we are revisiting the Indian history in this detail. And I should say it gets really interesting when we dive deep into the topic. As explained by Brother Zakaria, we are in the second day of our series Islam in India, and today I will be delivering the topic, Role of Muslim Leaders in Indian Independence. Before going to my presentation, I would like to inform you that I will be mainly capturing the Muslim leaders in India, whereas the Muslim leaders' role in Kerala will be handled in the upcoming series. That is going to be a separate series for that. I think the Friday Forum Ladies Wing will be taking care of that. Inshallah. I'll just share my screen. My screen is visible, I believe. Sam, my screen is visible, right?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, okay, okay, thank you so much, thank you. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah, thank you, thanks. There's a common belief that Indian Muslims were not involved in the independence struggle, and if they were it was only for the partition of India and for the creation of a separate Islamic state. Well, that's a total myth. The truth is, the Muslim sacrifice for Indian freedom struggle were purposefully hidden. Many historians tried to prove that Indian Muslim leaders preached the gospel of separation right from the revolt of 1857 to the day of independence in 1947. But how hard it is tried to bury the fact, the fragments of Indian soil will always testify the stories of people who offered their blood and sweat for their country. In this presentation, I take the privilege to present in front of you the role of some selected leaders who played a vital role in India's freedom struggle. As we all know, the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama was the first European to set foot on Indian soil. He was first landed in Calicut in 1498. With his discovery of new sea route connecting India and Europe, India started to become the center of European trade. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I granted the monopoly rights of trade to East India Company. Company's humble origin had benefited in many trade between India and Europe. After establishing its factories in South and West, the company started focusing on East India. By 1700, the British East India Company had grown so large that it began to dominate the global textile trade, and slowly the company started intervening in Indian politics, particularly in Bengal. In Indian history, it is during this time we can see the rise of Sirajuddin Dowla, the Nawab of Bengal. Sirajuddin Dowla was the first to raise voice against British. He was the most famous and last self-governing Nawab of Bengal. He was one of those few Indian rulers who knew the intention of British right from the beginning and awakened the nearby leaders against the British colonization. His strong resistance against British led to the famous Battle of Plassey in the year of 1757. During this time, Robert Clive was the leader of East India Company, and his only aim was to conquer Sirajuddin Dowla by any means and to acquire his territory. With this intention, he bribed the commander-in-chief Mir Jafar of Sirajuddin Dowla and also offered him that British will make him the next Nawab of Bengal. Mir Jafar somehow tricked Sirajuddin Dowla and he was defeated in the Battle of Plassey and was killed at the very young age of 24. This played a crucial role as it opened gates for the British to conquer Bengal and later the whole Indian subcontinent. After the defeat of Sirajuddin Daulah, as promised by British, Mir Jafar was made the Nawab of Bengal with the support of British East India Company. His reign with East India Company was not really easy. They kept him always under pressure. Later, Mir Jafar tried to tie up with Dutch East India Company, but British overran Dutch and played major role in replacing Mir Jafar with Mir Qasim, who was the son-in-law of Mir Jafar. Mir Qasim also tried to adopt different type of reforms to bring some change in the rule, but same like his father-in-law, he was also very unsuccessful. This led to the Battle of Buxar in the year of 1764 and was defeated by the British Army. The British East India Company's success at the Battle of Buxar made it a powerful force in the province of Bengal. Aftermath of Battle of Buxar was the Treaty of Allahabad, which marked the political and constitutional involvement and the beginning of British rule in India. The first sign of victory against British was seen in Mysore in the year 1782 when Nawab Hyder Ali waged war against the British. He was succeeded by his son Tipu Sultan, also known as Tiger of Mysore. Tipu remained as a merciless enemy to the British Company. He fought 3 successful battles against British known as Anglo-Mysore Wars. He deployed rockets against the advances of British forces and its allies. In the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, the imperial forces of British East India Company defeated Tipu, and Lord Wellesley killed Tipu and while he was defending his fort at Srirangapatna. The news of Tipu's defeat and death was celebrated with great excitement in Britain and brought them one step closer to the colonization of India. Besides these major wars between local states and East India Company, there were a number of resistance movements initiated by the people of India. The culmination of these resistance movements was the War of Independence in 1857, which is known in different names like Indian Mutiny, Sepoy Mutiny, Revolt of 1857, and it was the most violent and bloody uprising against the British rule in India. Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, was one of the leader of this 1857 revolt. Under his leadership, he ensured unity between Hindus and Muslims of both higher and lower caste to fight for the common cause of eradicating the British East India Company. It was ultimately an unsuccessful war, and at the end of the revolt, British regained its control over India. It is reported that more than 5 lakh Muslims were martyred in the revolt of 1857, of which 5,000 were ulamas. It is said that there was not even a single tree on the Grand Trunk Road from Delhi to Calcutta, but that an alim's body was found hanging on it for the days together. Consequently, Bahadur Shah was arrested and exiled, bringing the Mughal dynasty to an end. It also marked the end of East India Company, and in the year 1877, Queen Victoria took the title of Empress of India. During this time, Gandhiji was fighting against injustice and class division in South Africa. Upon the repeated request of Gandhi's mentor, Gopala Krishna Gokhale, Gandhi returned back to India in 1915 to be a part of Indian national movement. Maybe I have a question for you. I don't know whether my sound is audible. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I have a question. So it is, what was the first thing Gandhi did after coming back to India? Like he came back from South Africa. So what was the first thing he did after coming back to India? Anybody?
Dandi protest.
Not really.
He made a tour of India.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing which he did. Yeah. So the first thing which he did was he traveled to different part of India to know the pulse of the people, and that's how he started his. After coming back to India, that's how he started. So in 1916, he found the Sabarmati ashram to preach the idea of non-violence. Apparently, the condition of Indians were really worsening under the British rule and freedom struggle.
Hello?
Yeah, hello? Audible, right?
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So, yeah. Everybody remembers Nathuram Godse, the man who killed Mahatma Gandhi. But how many of us know about the cook who saved Mahatma's life? In Champaran district of Bihar, the condition of indigo cultivators was becoming very miserable because they were forced to sell the indigo at a very cheap price. Gandhiji adopted the civil disobedience strategy, which led to the Champaran Satyagraha in the year 1917, which is considered to be the first movement of Gandhiji in India. During the Champaran Satyagraha, Irwin, a British manager of indigo plantation, invited Gandhi and Dr. Rajendra Prasad for dinner in his palace. During this time, Irwin, the manager, told his cook Batak Mian to serve Gandhi with poisoned milk. Batak Mian took the glass to Gandhi but revealed the plot to Gandhiji. Batak Mian's patriotism costed him. The manager tortured and jailed him, turned his house into a crematorium, and drove him out of the village. In 1950, India's first President Rajendra Prasad, while addressing the people of Motihari in Bihar, introduced a man sitting next to him as Batak Mian Ansari, the cook who saved Mahatma's life. In his speech, he said, "Had it not been for Batak Mian, Gandhi would have died, wondering what an impact such a tragedy might have had on the freedom of India." President granted 50 acres of land to Batak Mian Ansari as a reward, but 6 decades later, his grandchildren still live in extreme poverty and with the hope that they will get this rewarded land one day. From the medieval era, the Sultan of Turkish Ottoman Empire was considered as the leader of worldwide Muslim community. The Caliphate was endangered with defeat of Turkey in the World War I. Consequently, in 1919, a campaign arose in India by the name Khilafat movement to save the Turkish Ottoman Empire. This movement, launched by Muslims of British India, was led by the brothers Shaukat Ali and Muhammad Ali, along with Abul Kalam Azad. Before discussing about the Ali brothers of Khilafat movement, it would be appropriate to discuss about the mother Abadi Banu Begum, also known as B. Amma. Begum was one of the first Muslim women who participated in the freedom struggle openly. B. Amma's forefathers were active participants of 1857 revolt, and B. Amma put her son Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, popularly known as Ali brothers, in active politics. She took an active part in the politics, and as a part of the Khilafat movement, Mahatma Gandhiji encouraged her to speak, and as he could get more support from the side of the people. She traveled extensively throughout India to gain the support for the Khilafat movement and played a vital role in fundraising for the independence struggle. As stated before, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, along with Abul Kalam Azad, started the Khilafat movement. In 1920, Khilafat leaders joined hands with Gandhi's non-cooperation movement, whereby Hindus and Muslims formed a united front against British rule in India. The Khilafat leaders promised to work and fight together for the cause of Khilafat and Swaraj. This campaign saw the popularization of the slogan Hindu Mussalman ki Jai, during the strikes, protests, and demonstration across the country. However, the Ali brothers were disappointed by the failure of Khilafat movement and Gandhi's suspension of non-cooperation movement in the year 1922 owing to the Chauri Chaura incident. Within 1.5 years of the launch of the non-cooperation movement, the Chauri Chaura incident took place at Gorakhpur. A large number of non-cooperation protesters clashed with police and set the police station on fire, killing roughly 22 policemen. Opposed to violence, Gandhi called off the movement. The young blood of the country were greatly disappointed and disheartened with the act of Mahatma. Ashfaqullah Khan was one among this youth. Ashfaqullah Khan was a revolutionary freedom fighter. He was the youngest among his four brothers. His elder brother was the classmate of Ram Prasad Bismil, who was very active in Indian freedom struggle during this time. Through his elder brother, Ashfaqullah Khan used to hear the freedom fight stories of Ram Prasad Bismil and his passion for Urdu poetry. Both Ashfaqullah Khan and Bismil were extremely fond of Urdu poetry, and that's how they got connected. When Gandhiji called off the non-cooperation movement, he joined with Ram Prasad Bismil and found the Hindustan Socialist Republican Association with the aim of winning freedom for the country through an armed revolution. The revolutionaries felt only through forces they can defeat British government to get the freedom and not by the moderate means. To mobilize the required fund to buy arms and weapons, they decided to execute the Kakori train robbery under the leadership of Ashfaqullah Khan and Ram Prasad Bismil. This train was supposedly carrying the money bags which belonged to Indians and was being transferred to the British treasury. Soon after the robbery, Bismil and his companions were arrested. Ashfaqullah Khan managed to abscond from the scene. It is said that he utilized the looted money and distributed it for the cause of India's freedom struggle. But later he was betrayed by his friend and was arrested by the British police. After the long trial, 4 conspirators along with Ram Prasad Bismil and Ashfaqullah Khan was sentenced to death. Before the execution, when Ashfaqullah Khan was asked for his last wish, he said, "No desire is left except one that someone may put a little soil of my motherland in my winding sheet." On 19 December 1927, India's brave freedom fighters Ashfaqullah Khan and Ram Prasad Bismil were hanged in 2 different jails of Farizabad and Gorakhpur. When Ashfaqullah Khan was hanged at the age of 27, he was the first Muslim to be hanged in a case of conspiracy. In his last message to the nation, he wrote, "I take pride in the fact that I will be the first and foremost Muslim to embrace death on the gallows for the freedom of my country." You might have watched the movie Rang De Basandi, in which Kunal Kapoor played the role of Ashfaqullah Khan. Moving on, as discussed earlier, Azad was one of those leaders of Khilafat movement during which he became very close with Mahatma Gandhi. Azad was a supporter of Gandhi's ideas of non-violent civil disobedience and worked to organize the non-cooperation movement. He promoted Gandhi's ideals, including the use of Swadeshi products and the cause of Swaraj for India. At an age of 35, he became the youngest person to serve as the president of Indian National Congress. Azad was one of the main organizers of the Darshana Satyagraha in 1931, a protest against the British salt tax in the colonial India. He played a vital role in the Quit India movement. Azad strongly criticized the stance of Jinnah on the two-nation theory and tried hard for the Hindu-Muslim unity. Azad wrote many books on the freedom struggle, and he wrote a translation of Holy Quran in Urdu. Following India's independence, He became the first Minister of Education in Indian government. His contribution in establishing the Education Foundation in India is recognized by celebrating his birthday on November 11th as the National Education Day across India. Another significant leader of the time was Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was also known by the name Frontier Gandhi in India and Bacha Khan in Pakistan. He was hailing from Peshawar of British India. He was the pioneer of Gandhian-style non-violent struggle. He played a major role in organizing the Pathans and channeling their energy towards the cause of freedom struggle. Pathans during this time were really uneducated, and the British really wanted to keep them always backwards so that they can easily control them. In 1929, he founded the Khudai Khidmatkar movement that achieved tremendous success in India. On 23rd April 1930, Bacha Khan was arrested during the protest against, it was in the protest of Salt Satyagraha. A crowd of Khudai Khidmatkar was gathered in Peshwa's Kissa Kawani Bazaar. The British ordered troops to open fire with the machine guns on the unarmed crowd, which led to the Kissa Kawani massacre, killing an estimated 400 civilians. The killing of unarmed people resulted in huge protests across India, and it gave extra mileage for the Khudai Khidmatkar movement. Bacha Khan strongly opposed the partition of India. So when ultimately the Indian National Congress approved the Muslim League's demand to divide India into two, without consulting the leaders of Khudai Khidmatkar, made Ashfaqullah Khan really upset, and he was really disappointed by the act of Indian National Congress. And he told his Congress counterparts, "You have thrown us to the wolves." Even after independence, his fight for justice continued, and he spent 45 years of his 97 years life in jail for the freedom of India. He was finally died in 1988, and his funeral parade was attended by thousands of teary-eyed Indians. Abdul Ghaffar Khan earned the respect of people worldwide. The Indian government bestowed him with Bharat Ratna in the year 1987. In a recently published children's book in United States, Bacha Khan was listed as one of the most influential men who changed the world. Moving on, I have a question for you. Anybody know who was the person who coined the slogan "Ingulab Zindabad"?
Muhammad Iqbal.
No, that's not correct.
Bhagat Singh, I think.
Sorry.
Bhagat Singh or?
No. Okay. The slogan "Inqilab Zindabad" was coined by Maulana Hasrat Mohani. Maulana Hasrat Mohani was the person who coined this slogan "Inqilab Zindabad," which was later popularized by Bhagat Singh and his comrades. So Hasrat Mohani was the first person to demand the Purna Swaraj for India, and at the Ahmedabad session of the Indian National Congress, this was he demanded for the Purna Swaraj. During this session, the Ram Prasad Bismil and both Ram Prasad Bismil and Ashfaqullah Khan was present in this session. Mohani was one of the founder of Communist Party of India. He was also associated with the Muslim League from its inception. Although Mohani supported the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he did not favor his two-nation theory, and he chose to remain in India after the partition of India in 1947. After complete independence from British rule, Maulana Hasrat Mohani wanted a confederate setup on the pattern of USSR. He wanted to see a confederal constitution in India, and he proposed 6 federations, that is East Pakistan, West Pakistan, Central India, Southeast India, Southwest India, and Hyderabad Deccan. Also, Hazrat Mohani was a strong advocate of Hindu-Muslim unity. Also, Hazrat Mohani was elected as a member to the Constituent Assembly, tasked with the framing of Constitution of India under the chairmanship of Dr. Ambedkar. But he saw the hypocrisy towards Muslim minorities in the Constitution, and he ended up with not signing that Constitution. Moving on, now I have another one more question I have for you. It is, who coined the slogan "Quit India"? Anybody can answer? It's very famous. I think you should be able to answer that.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah, that's a common belief actually. It's not Mahatma Gandhi. The Quit India slogan is credited to another Congress leader. His name is Yusuf Mehrali. This was launched just before some time of the launch of the movement itself actually. So at the age of 39, Mehrali was the first mayor of Bombay and the socialist leader of Bombay during this time. So the coining of this slogan "Quit India," K. Gopalaswamy in his book Gandhi and Bombay, he have explained the scenario of selecting this slogan. So what happened is Gandhi held a conference with his colleagues in Bombay to find the best slogan for the independence struggle. So some of them proposed "Get Out," but Gandhiji rejected it, saying that being very impolite. Then Rajagopal mentioned something like "Retreat" or "Withdraw." That too didn't find really good favor. Then at last, Yusuf Mehrali presented Gandhi with a bow-bearing inscription, "Quit India." Gandhi said in approval, "Amen." Actually, the Mehrali's talent for coining catchy slogans had been proven even before the Quit India movement. In 1928, he came up with the phrase "Simon, go back" in the protest against the All-British Simon Commission. In February 1928, when the commission arrived at the Bombay port, Mehrali had organized a protest with his colleagues. They dressed up like coolies and so that they can get an access to the railway station, and then greeted the commission with the slogan "Simon, go back." Mehrali's role in freedom movement was not just restricted to the coining of slogans. He was responsible for mobilizing his socialist colleagues and ensuring that the Quit India movement is taken forward. Mehrali was in fact one of the senior leaders who got arrested along with Gandhi and others in August 1942 as a part of the Quit India movement. He was imprisoned 8 times during the freedom movement, and he was released from prison in 1946 and went on to become an MLA in the independent India. So other than the leaders which I have explained here, there are many more brave souls who fought for their nation. Barakatullah and Sayyid Rahmat Shah of Ghadar party sacrificed their lives for the India's freedom struggle. Umar Subhani, an industrialist and a millionaire of Bombay, presented a blank check to Gandhiji for Congress expenses and ultimately sacrificed his life for the cause of India. Now, everybody knows about Rani Lakshmi of Jhansi, but how many of us know about Begum Hazrat Mahal, the unsung heroine of the First War of Independence? Begum shot the British ruler Sir Henry Lawrence and defeated the British Army in a critical battle at Chinnath in the year 1857. Another lady, Mandakini Hazra, played a significant role in Quit India movement and the Gandhi's non-cooperation movement. Unfortunately, she was shot by the British Army. Begum Hazrat, Bi Amma, Mandakini Hazra were just a few of the hundreds of Muslim women who fought for the freedom of the country along with their men folks. If asked about the total of Muslims who fought Indian War of Independence, the brave souls mentioned above will only make a fraction of it. The famous writer Khushwant Singh once said, India's freedom is written on Muslims' blood. Their participation on the freedom struggle were much more than their percentage. The role of Indian Muslims in the national movement has not been given adequate coverage in the press or in any books. There is a propaganda against Indian Muslims that Indian Muslims supported Pakistan and the partition of India, which is a total myth. This propaganda has resulted in the ongoing persecution, genocide, and hatred among the Muslims. To sum up, the Muslim community has played vital role in India's freedom struggle, and it is high time to educate ourselves and our future generation about the role played by our forefathers to obtain freedom of our country. Such a study is essential to eradicate the prejudices and misconception against the Muslims grown in the present India. Jai Hind.
So the wonderful job, Abdul Rahman. What's the session now? Jakriya, are we taking questions now, or we will finish, conclude the session and then take questions?
If any questions, maybe what I can do is I have some references here. These are about some books written by AMU Professor Shan Mohammed. It's a very wonderful book, and it has a lot of information. That is Muslims and India's Freedom Movement by Shan Mohammed. It's the professor at AMU. And there is one more book, I just put it in the reference, that is the Muslim Freedom Fighters, Contribution of Indian Muslims in Independence Movement by Sayyid Ubaidur Rahman. It's a very good, wonderful book. Both these books are available in Amazon. If anybody want to read these books, it's available in Amazon. Maybe since I think still I have some time, maybe I can just ask little 3 or 4 questions. So I can just see up to what extent everybody has listened to my topic. So I'll be grateful if somebody can answer these questions. I'll go for the first one. Who was the first ruler to raise voice against British? Anybody?
Siraj Dawla.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah. Next question: who deployed rockets against British?
Sultan.
Tipu Sultan.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Next question: who was the cook who saved Gandhiji's life during the Champaran Satyagraha? Yeah.
Maulana.
No.
Ansari.
Yeah, Batak Mian Ansari. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Batak Mian Ansari. Who was the freedom fighter who was known by the name Frontier Gandhi?
Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan.
Yeah, that's correct. Then the last question I have is who came up with the confederate setup for independent India?
Jinnah.
No.
Maulana, what is this?
Yeah, that's correct. Maulana Hasrat Mohani. Hasrat Mohani was the person who came up with the confederate setup for the Indian